Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vidya Gravinam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So who has come in?
My name's Sabrina.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we have meditation for 20 minutes at the beginning of class. So if you come back, please try to come early.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We're
You guys too.
flexible. So why don't we go around the room tonight for those, at least here in the living room, and introduce ourselves. So I'm Jim.
Shilpa.
Daniel.
Mike.
Uma.
Vinay.
Nice to meet you. Sabrina.
Sabrina. How did you find us?
On Meetup.
Oh, groovy. Okay. What do you think? Are you familiar at all with this text, the Bhagavad Gita?
No, but I want to be.
Great. Well, we've got copies of them there. I sell them at cost. They're $15 if you want one. But you don't need one. So we are now starting chapter 3. And let's put this in the frame of kind of where we are in our story. So we ended the second chapter, the chapter Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, with this very famous section, last 18 verses, the Sthita Prajna Purusha section, the signs of a person of steady wisdom, the jnani, the realized soul, and a person who's cast off all the desires of the mind. There's nothing left to do, nothing left to accomplish. Whose mind easily drowns in Brahman. Mind is soaked in the bliss of the self. Now, Arjuna is our spiritual every person. At the end of this, he's going, all right, but I'm in the middle of a battle. Why do you engage me in this if I'm supposed to be, a sannyasi, a renunciate? So we get this very relevant question, because I suspect for all of us, okay, Jim, but I have a job to do tomorrow. I've got relationships. I've got a 401k that I've got to pay attention to. I've got things I enjoy. I like to go to concerts. Are you closing the window?
I'm getting Sabrina a back jack.
Oh,
Would this be more comfortable?
Oh, yes.
see, people are saying he's doing
Thank you so
save
much.
up. So we have lives. We have lives in the world. Do we need to give them up? Is that what Krishna was saying? Let's see what Krishna answers as we begin this third chapter. Do you all understand the doubt? Most of us are not ready to go marching off to the forest or a cave in the Himalayas. And do we need to? So let's start our third chapter. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha Jayasi Cheta Karmanaste Mata Buddhi Janardana Tat Kim Karmani Ghore Mama Niyo Jayasi Keshava. Arjun said, if it be thought by you that knowledge is superior to action, O Janardana, why then do you, O Keshava, engage me in this terrible action?
So Janardana is the nickname for Arjuna. Now, Sabrina, my suggestion is that you don't take notes.
Oh, okay.
And the reason being, what happens here is not data like in a college class.
Okay.
We're going to hopefully put you into an experience.
Oh, okay.
So this work is incredibly repetitive. So
It's true.
Okay.
you've been doing it a long time. So just do your best to stay present. If you have questions, my teacher used to say, I don't want any stupid questions. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So, very tense style. So, Arjuna starts right out. Well, if knowledge is what's superior, then why do you engage me in this action? Remember what Krishna said, don't be a wimp. Get up and fight. It's your duty. Let's see what happens next. And by the way, this battle is a metaphor for all the stuff you and I need to go through. You know, if you've got a boss that's hard to get along with, or kids that won't behave, etc. Going on.
Vyami Shreneva Vakyena Buddhim Mohoy Yasiva Me Tadekam Vada Nishchatya Yena Shreyo Hamapyunam. With this apparently perplexing speech, you confuse, as it were, my understanding. Therefore, tell me that one way by which I, for certain, may attain the highest.
Yes. So we have a reveal here in Arjuna's answer. What is the mark of a person of steady wisdom? A person who's the jnani, the realized soul. It is they know they are not a person anymore. Actually, they never were. Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. But look where Arjuna's identity is revealed in this verse. Why do you over there engage me in this battle? What am I to do? So it's very clear that in spite of the teaching in the second chapter, Arjuna is thoroughly identified with the personality. Is this making sense? Is this kind of thought new for you?
Totally.
Okay. One of the things that yoga thunders is the personal sense of self is a shadow self. It's a phony self. And the problem is I spend all my time trying to secure it and protect it. And it's like trying to secure and protect something that isn't really there. That's what makes me so nuts. There is something there. It's very real. But it's okay. So, but for those of you who've been following along in the teaching, do you see where Arjuna is identified? And if you're solidly identified with the body and this discrimination between the self and the not self is a challenge, then he gives us a different practice. Now, pedagogically, what is our author Vyasa doing? In chapter 2, I call it the table of contents chapter. He set out in brief strokes all the major ideas he's going to cover in the whole 18 chapters. Then he goes way back to our most basic practice. So many of us do not understand karma yoga. And we're always wrestling with the world, and then I want to run away from the world and meditate. That's not what it's about. So we're going to learn how to use our activity in the world in a way that furthers our spiritual unfoldment. It's incredibly practical stuff. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse. Krishna Uvaja, or
Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Loka Smindh Vividha Nishta Pura Prokta Mayangaha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Blessed Lord said, in this world there is a twofold path. As I said before, O sinless one, the path of knowledge of the Sankhyan and the path of actions of the yogis.
So he identifies these two paths. So again, for those of us who may have come from a Christian background, there's a very famous text called The Cloud of Unknowing, written by a 14th century English monk. And in one of the chapters, he does what we call an exegesis. He breaks apart and makes meaning out of the story of Martha and Mary from the Christian Bible, from the New Testament. So the story is something like this. Jesus comes to visit. And so there's these two gals, Mary and Martha, and they have a brother, Lazarus, who is a real close friend of Jesus. So Jesus is there, and you have to imagine that he's just like a Mahatma. He's like Bhagwan, Ramana Maharshi. So he's sitting there on the couch. People are at his feet. Everybody's just too. Minds are absorbed in that deep, thunderous mystery. Now, Martha is in the kitchen. It's her job to feed all these damn people. Jesus comes marching in with all these people, unannounced, no preparation. Those of you who have families, have you ever had kids come home or husbands come home and there's a whole house full of people that you have to feed and you got no notice? You had that happen. She's upset. So I always imagine her with, kind of an apron or something coming out of the kitchen, and she's making matzah. So she's got flour all over her hair and stuff like that. And there's so much work to be done. And she says, Jesus, tell Mary to come into the kitchen and help me. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you're concerned over stuff you don't need to be concerned about. Mary has the better part. And the way this story is traditionally broken down, Martha symbolizes the active life, karma yoga. Mary symbolizes the contemplative life, jnana yoga. And the key is they are to be practiced sequentially. It's not either or. If my mind is under the pressure of a lot of vasanas, these unconscious tendencies that impel me into action. So I try to sit still and I'm restless and discontent and agitated. You know the feeling? Oh, I can't sit today. I just got to get up and do stuff. All that pressure in the psyche. It's very difficult. And you're fighting all the time to try to be still and to meditate. So what yoga says is, maybe you're not quite ready for meditation or a deep meditative practice. Do 20 minutes. But start to do karma yoga. Karma yoga is a science of exhausting vasana pressure. That's its intention. So that the mind can easily turn within. It's not conflict, it's first then. Any thoughts on this before we go on? Very important point. So again, the author of The Cloud says you do the active life first, then God calls his special friends and you have the desire to turn within. It's beautiful language that he uses. All right, going on, please.
Na karmanam arambhanaish karmayam purushosnute na cha sannyasa sanadeva siddhi samadhi gacchati. Not by non-performance of actions does man reach actionless, nor by mere renunciation does he attain perfection.
So here by perfection, he uses the word samadhi. Equality of vision. Usually we think of it as that state where knower, knowing, and known are merged. The truth about who we are and about the world is absolutely clear. What he's talking about is those people who are life deniers. They run away from the world. And that won't do it. So you decide you're not going to have a job, you're just going to live with your grandmother. And then what do? You watch Netflix all day. A true story. I have a very, very dear friend, towering intellect. He's Indian, PhD in economics from, I think it was Cornell, I can't remember what university. So he ended up being a vice president for the World Bank in Washington, D.C. Really powerful guy in the world of finance. So it's time for him to retire. He decides that he wants to go be a yogi. So he goes off to the Himalayan Institute in Pennsylvania. But there's still a lot of Vasana pressure. So the next thing you know, he decides that they ought to have a newsletter. So he's in charge of doing a newsletter. He continuing to work actively. He's not in a cell sitting in meditation. Is this making sense? Too much pressure. Too much pressure. So we have to be honest enough with ourselves. We're going to learn what's the distinction between actionlessness and action. It's not about trying to not do anything. That doesn't work. And if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes it's because we're frightened and overwhelmed by life. I don't know if this is true so much among Indians, but it's certainly true about my generation of Westerners, those of us who dropped out and were hippies, where getting a job and paying the rent was scarier than dying. You know, we're just overwhelmed by life. It seems so meaningless and pointless. No skills, no nothing. A lot of people. I knew people whose goal in life was to get on SSI. That's the government dole. So they didn't have to work because it was so scary. That's not what yoga is about. It's not about running away from the world. Next verse.
Jim, before we go on, I have a question.
Is that Shweta?
Yes, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. She's coming in all the way from Chennai, India.
Oh, wow.
What's your question?
I want you to talk a little bit more about Vasana pressure. Like you gave this example of your friend who was an economist and he went to this retreat and he still did all this stuff there. So for those of us in the world, like sometimes I have a difficult time knowing if this is, you know, some of these things are my own Vasana pressure or just stepping up to do a job that no one is doing. So let me be concrete as usual. So again, at the Institute, there are lots of things that, you know, we could do for students, for example, like meeting them frequently, you know, talking to them about their well-being. This is one of them. Or, you know, setting up facilities, better sports facilities for people or better facilities for students. These are some examples of things that my job does not require me to do. But I feel the need to do them because I feel that, you know, people need this.
And this is a good thing, Shweta. Hang on, we're going to address this. So you have these desires because of your vasanas. And what Krishna's going to say is getting rid of the objects of desire, getting rid of the outer with that pressure staying inside is hypocrisy. You know, if you were to say it's not my job, they can run this in the way they want, and you go home and you're stewing about it, that's not freedom. So there's a way for you to do these actions. Serve the society. Swamiji used to thunder, act. But there's a way to act in a way that, first of all, makes you most effective. But secondly, exhausts vasana without creating new ones. At some point, you're going to be Professor Emeritus if you don't die first.
Oh, God forbid.
You know what I mean? And they're going to put you out to pasture with the rest of the cows.
Yeah, I know all that. It's just, I think that what I don't fully understand is that, is this my own vasana pressure? Because
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't second guess yourself. Trust yourself. Now, we will get to this. You're just
okay.
Have a little patience with Lord Krishna.
Okay.
Okay. Very, you're right on target with what this chapter is all about. All right, going on.
Nahi kaschit na anapi jatu tishtatya karma kat karyate hyavashaha karma sarvaha prakriti jairug guneha.
Yes.
Verily, none can ever remain, even for a moment, without performing action. For everyone is made to act helplessly, indeed, by the qualities born of Prakriti.
Yes. So, Prakriti means nature. And the word in Sanskrit has the same dual meaning as the word nature does in English. For example, it's a gorgeous day today. You could get in the car and drive up to one of the redwood groves, maybe in Marin, and enjoy the beauty of nature, or maybe go to the Marin headlands and enjoy the beauty of nature. Or we could say, well, there's Daniel, he's telling silly jokes again. Oh, that's just his nature. That's called projection, by the way. So the nature of something, the essence of something, and nature meaning this whole phenomenal world. So what Krishna is saying is that everybody is impelled into activity helplessly by the gunas, the qualities of mind, by their nature. Prakriti. How does it get there? Now listen very carefully. The dharma of the body is karma. Dharma, is this a word you're familiar with, Sabrina? It has a wealth of meanings. Its first meaning is the nature of something, the essence of something, without which it would not be the thing that it is. It's the dharma of water to be wet. It's the dharma of fire to burn. It's the dharma of sugar to be sweet. It can also involve the movement through time and space. So, for example, it's the dharma of a river to flow. It's not flowing, it's a lake or a glacier or something else. So it can have movement to it. The dharma of the body is karma. All bodies act. That's what karma means. Karma just means action. That's all that it means. You know what you call a body without karma? You got it. As long as the body is alive, it will act. I'm not going to act. Well, your hair is growing. Wait, no. Your cells are dividing. No, stop. You can't stop acting. I'm not going to act. I promise you, in the next 4, 5, 6 hours, the toilet is right across the hall there. You can't help it. The body acts. It's what it does. You eat, you sleep. And maintenance of the body is not possible without action. And I don't mean just eating and drinking. How are you going to pay for it? Unless you're really rich trust fund kid, you're going to have to work in this world. You may choose to become a sannyasi, but you still have to be a sannyasis or renunciate monk. But you still have to do bhiksha. What's bhiksha? Begging. Yeah, bhiksha. They beg for food. We're never free from activity at the level of the body. Does everybody understand that? Now, yourself is beyond the body, and it is achalam. Chalati means to move. Achalam means it never moves. You are sthita, still. But the body, mind, intellect is always in motion. Always in motion. So withdrawing from life is not the answer to freedom. Now, part of our problem, many of us have wrong ideas about something as simple as work. Do you know how a government worker is like a broken rifle? It won't work and you can't fire it. Some people think the best job is one where you don't have to do anything and they can't fire you and you can just do TikTok all day long. But if you've ever had a job like that, it's incredibly boring. It's soul crushing in the end. You have a right to do what you love and to love what you do. You have a right to have a passionate life. Those of us who may have watched the old Bill Moyers interviews with Joseph Campbell, they're wonderful. You can find them on Netflix, I'm sure, or YouTube. But he was a Vedantic, Joseph Campbell was, and he coined the expression, follow your bliss, taken directly from 3rd chapter of the Gita. So if you're going to act, question I ask a lot of young people, if you were independently wealthy and you had all the education in the world, all the contacts in the world, what would you be doing with your life? Now, if you've been in a soul-crushing job, people might say, oh, I moved to Hawaii and sit on the beach. Well, actually, that's going to get boring after a while. We're meant to work. It's our nature. If you're going to work, if you're going to do something, what are you going to do? Now, hopefully, our parents don't do a lot of super ego, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, no, this is not what our family does, that's wrong, you need to be a doctor to take care of your parents when we get old. That's an old one you find in Indian culture. Be an accountant because it's safe. Yoga says what we should do with our children is give them all the opportunities possible to explore where their talents are, where their interests are, where their passion is. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of what the scripture is, but hang on to those ideas. As we get older, if we've not been following our own dharma, shifting can be hard. So we may not be able to do what we love because we've gotten old, but we can learn to love what we do. We'll get techniques about that as well. Next verse.
Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smarana indriya thvani mudhatma mithyacharaha sa uchyate. He who, restraining the organs of action, sits thinking in his mind of the sense objects, he of deluded understanding is called a hypocrite.
Yes. So if I'm honest with myself and I have a heart full of desires, but I try to be a spiritual goody-goody, and I sit, because that's what spiritual people do, and I spend my time in meditation thinking about the stuff I really want. Krishna says you're a hypocrite. And again, tell you a true story. So we're going back to the early 90s, 91 or 92. And in those days, I had a meditation center on Market Street in San Francisco. And we used to have meditation every night. So long ago, I can't remember. I think we do 6:30. So we had 40-minute meditation every night. So this young guy comes in and he sits, we meditate, and we would have tea afterward. We would talk. And about 20 some years earlier, he had been in an ashram in Florida and was a devotee of Guru Maharaji, who at that time was the 14-year-old guru. I must be 60 now. But in that ashram, one of the requirements is what we call brahmacharya, which means celibacy. So every time when he was in that ashram 20 years prior, and he was trying to meditate and be a celibate, all he thought about was the sex he wasn't having. Listen very, very carefully. If you suppress desire, the psyche gets bent. And in the end, you will damage your psyche and probably make it unfit for spiritual practice. I was on the phone this morning with a very dear friend who's a Roman Catholic priest. And there's a bit of drama going on in the parish where he works. The pastor, the head priest of this parish, sent some sexual, inappropriate texting to another young man parishioner. The guy at least is like 18 or 19, so it's not illegal, but it's inappropriate. So because he's taken a vow of celibacy, there are many, many values to it, but it's a gift. It's not a discipline. If you're suppressing, you're going to get in trouble. It's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out sideways. Some of us, as we get deeper, the desire is taken away. Another classic example of this, for those of us who are in the recovery community, we have a term which we call white knuckling it. Who here's heard that expression? That's when a person quits drinking out of willpower. And they usually become really unpleasant people. And all their friends after a while are going to say, for God's sake, take a drink. You're driving us all nuts. Because they're so uncomfortable. They're so irritated and agitated. So if we try to be pure out of willpower, meaning we get rid of the objects of desire, but the desire remains behind, Krishna calls us a hypocrite. More than that, it is spiritually damaging. So what do we do about this? The great Christian saint Augustine of Hippo has a wonderful statement. He says, "Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee." Sometimes you'll hear the term, we have a God-shaped hole in our hearts. Drugs, food, sex, money, gambling. Keep trying to fill that hole up. None of it works. Thank God. God is the most beloved, or we'd all be in trouble. So listen very, very carefully. We are not so much healed by what we turn from as to what we turn to. Another form of this teaching. A young man comes to Jesus. And the question is, what is the greatest of the commandments? There's 613 laws, rules that a good Jew is supposed to observe. Which one's the most important? What's the answer?
Love thy God.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Remember what he said, Mike?
Love the Lord God, and then your neighbor as yourself.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is like unto the first, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love God and love people. all the other laws hang on that much. So turn the mind to God as you understand God. If you've come to a place where you've gotten the sense of turning the mind within to your own essential nature, and let the world leave you. Let the world leave you. Now, if you've got bad habits that are screwing up your life, you may need to get a little bit of separation with them. But I don't think most of us are in that situation. But if we have a wrong understanding of renunciation, and we get moralistic about it, oh, I shouldn't want this, oh, I shouldn't want that, we can get in trouble. How do I know if I'm suppressing? One very clear signpost.
Chintyam?
Huh?
Chintyam?
Chintya, worry, but you get depressed when you're pressing down the mind. It is depressed. You're going to feel crappy. You're going to not like the way you're living. I'm not having any fun. Then you're subject to one of the great demons, FOMO. The demon FOMO. What's the demon FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. So Krishna says, getting rid of the objects and letting the desire remain behind doesn't work. He calls us a hypocrite if we do that. But I would say, actually, it's spiritually ineffective. That's the point. And if there are any of us who've tried to do that, trying to be a spiritual goody-goody, and then you find you can't keep it up. Who's had that issue? All right, next one.
Yastivindriyani manasa niyamya bharate jur niyamya arbhate arjuna karmendriya he karma yoga mastaka vishishyate. But whosoever controlling the senses by the mind, O Arjuna, engages his organs of action in karma yoga without attachment, he excels.
Yes. So we're getting introduced to this idea of detaching from the results in life. Later on, he's going to have one of his most powerful statements. Thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. It's all we get is work. All we get is work. So here, we engage the sense organs in their various activities. Now, how do we control the mind? He implies that. The way we control the mind is through insight. Who here has taken a Vipassana retreat? What does Vipassana mean in Pali? Well, the Sanskrit would be Vipassana. Drish pashyati, pashyami. What's pashyami mean? Is there a Hindi? What's the verb to see in Hindi?
I think it's equanimity.
But how do you say to see?
Dikhna.
Digna. Digna?
Dikhna.
Yeah, it's a different root. So vipassana, seeing, pashyana, V means a superlative. It means insight. That's what vipassana means. Insight meditation. What do? We see what's really going on. When we slow down enough, then we're woke. So what is it that we want to see that helps us let go of the world? I'm going to go back to alcoholism because it's an extreme case of just the worldly condition. But in the recovery communities, these things, we're taught them. And they're so cool because it's very clear yoga. It's good karma yoga. So someone asks a question, I don't know if I'm an alcoholic or not. So, oh, no, stay away from the bars. No, we don't say that. What we say is, well, go out to your local bar, try having a few drinks and try stopping abruptly. Try it more than once. If you're a real alcoholic, you won't be able to do it. So the potential sober person tries that. Sure enough, they go to the local bar, they have 2-3 drinks, and the next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock and they're smashed. They do that more than once and they realize, oh, I can't stop once I get started. So what does that show them? They get a clear picture of their condition. So when they put the plug in the jug and they decide to quit drinking, and then they're out with a bunch of friends and there's a party and the champagne is going around. First will arise this desire. Oh yeah, I'll just have one glass of champagne. But if they know their condition, if they have insight, they think the drink through. I've never had just one glass of champagne. I'll drink the whole damn bottle and then I'm going to wake up tomorrow, if I'm lucky, with just a headache. If not, I'll be on another run. Or I'll start doing cocaine as a way to try to treat the booze. So you think the drink through is what they say. So what does the yogi do? We go back to what I call the pleasure principle. What does it feel like to want something you don't have? It hurts. The wanting is called kama, craving. Spriha, longing. Krishna, thirsting. Vanja, I love that word. Wanting. Yoga says there is no other suffering than wanting something you don't have, or the flip side, dvesha, aversion, wanting to get rid of something I don't like, or what I call the neurotic form. I have what I want, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. Now, what do I do about it? Usually I go out and get what I want. And when desire and object of desire become one, this state is called pramoda, the point of pleasure. I think the object is where all the joy is, the happiness. Yoga says, actually, no. Momentarily, your mind has been freed from longing. Oh, I'm so hungry. I want to have dinner. I didn't have any lunch. You eat the dinner. Now you're not hungry anymore. yoga says is actually you have momentarily induced the mind state of desirelessness. I can prove this to you. No matter what your problems are, everybody loves a deep sleep. There's a state. I call it snooze alarm bliss. The technical term is vasanananda. So in the morning, the alarm goes off, you hit it. Oh, just another 10 minutes. You know that feeling? There's just enough mind there to enjoy the fragrance, the leftover of deep sleep. What object is causing that? Nothing. It's a kiss of the bliss of your own self-nature. What happens for us in the morning? Oh, I need to get up. I have to pee. And then, oh, I need to make some coffee so I can start my day. And, oh, I've got to deal with this report that this meeting at 10 o'clock. And oh, I don't not want to deal with this. Oh, I'm so worried about that. Your mind comes back with all of its desires and aversions. And the bliss fades. Isn't that our experience? So yoga says, Chidananda Rupaha. Your nature is bliss consciousness. It's not out there. So what we learn to do is what Swamiji would call sublimate, not suppress. What's the difference? So Shweta, you probably have this with some of your students. There's a paper due Monday morning, and the student is got a lot more work to do, and all their friends say, oh, we're going to go out for beer or chai or hang out together on Friday night, come with us. And the student says, oh, I really would love to do that, but I really want to get a good grade on this paper. I'm going to pass on it now. You know, students doing that?
Yeah.
Very common, except for people like me who went out and had beer and flunked out. You see. So we learn to let go of a lesser desire for something that's more fulfilling. That's called sublimation. So this is what a yogi learns to do. You think through the stuff. If you're a young person and you're spending all your time on Tinder or Grindr or whatever it is, how's that working out for you? How many hours did you spend on it last night? 4 or 5. How did it make you feel? Terrible. Oh, how's that working out for you? Any other thing. So we learn to see that my problem is not that I'm not getting what I want. My problem is I am addicted to people, places, things, and conditions. And it is the longing itself that hurts. When I was in the ashram, my nickname for my mind was Mudha. What does Mudha mean? When I would see, oh, I want this, you know, oh, that person or that situation, I want, why can't I sing like I want to sing, you know? Why can't I do it? All these things. And then I go, Buddha. There you are, stuck, wanting again. It's so painful. And then this is the part that's just a real killer. Who here had a really horrible week or something really upsetting happen this week? Any of you? Is that Daniel?
Yes,
Tell me this is the first time you felt that.
not the first time.
It's repetitive.
Yeah.
And it's boring. And you begin to see it's the same half a dozen things that trigger my mind over and over again. And I keep thinking maybe this time I can manipulate or make it work, control the situation, or convince the other person to behave the way I want. Then life just does its thing. So here Krishna is saying the hypocrite gets rid of the objects and the desire remains behind. But the yogi is able to get some dominion over the mind. Soon on, we're going to get introduced to this term yoga rudha. Who's heard this term before? Yoga arudha. Arudha is a riding term. It's usually ashwa arudha, getting on a horse. But it means to mount the steed of the mind. Got this very powerful beast. When you're in the saddle and you've got the reins collected, you are in control of the horse. So this powerful beast called my mind. I want to come to a place where I'm not under the tyranny of raga and dvesha. Raga is my yearning for something. Dvesha is my aversion. Inside, I can begin to not be tyrannized by it. Now, we've got to be careful of what I call phony renunciation. Let me give you an example out of my own life. So many of you may know that when I was younger, and for many, many years, I was a professional musician. I was a singer. And when I first started out singing, I had terrible stage fright. Living in San Diego, 1970, 1971, right around there. And there was a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, where they had young singers come in and do operatic arias and art songs and stuff like that. So I'm 22 years old, I'm just a kid. Get a chance to go in. They didn't pay us. You just got a chance to sing. I went in there. I can remember the song was Amarilli Mia Bella. I got up on the stage and I was so frightened. My legs were shaking. It was just awful. And I came off stage and I got my red wine and had about 3 glasses of it. And I said, I'm going to quit singing. This is just too painful. I wasn't a yogi yet. But what I did was phony renunciation. Real renunciation, which I learned to do later, is to continue to sing because I love it. and let go of the attachment. Let go of my obsession with the outcome. Learning to put my mind on the music, on communicating something, not on what do they think of me. I'm going to make a mistake. Can you see the subtle difference there? So that sour grapes renunciation is not valid. Because what happened when I said, I'm going to give up singing? It didn't work. For those of us who are singers, it's like breathing. You got to do it. But could not sing. I had to learn how to do it as karma yoga. All right. One more.
Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayo hyakarmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyet karmanaha. You perform your bounden duty, for action is superior to inaction. Even the maintenance of the body would not be possible for you by inaction.
So we have this technical term, niyatam karmas. In Hindu culture, it means doing the various rituals that are enjoined on your caste and creed. All religions have them. So, like, for example, today's Easter Sunday, we just finished Holy Week for Catholics, Lutherans, and Episcopalians. You know, did you make your confession before Easter? You know, did you do a rosary or Stations of the Cross on Good Friday? All these various rituals. Jews have them too. You do a mikvah, you do a good mitzvah, you do a good deed, or you can't do a mikvah, you can take a bath. But you have all sorts of various rituals that you do. You don't eat this, you can't eat that. That is the exoteric understanding of niyatam karma. Do your duty in this world, right where you are. Oh, Jim, I hate my job. I can't stand my boss. He's such a pig. I really want to leave. I'm so frightened. I don't know what to do. So, what is Krishna saying? Right now, you aren't doing what you love, but you have to come to a point of neutrality where you are, where the idiot boss and the repetitive work doesn't trigger you. So your mind is quiet. Then you can move. Now, this is a subtle point. It is no accident that you are in the environment you are. It is our own karma that has brought that to us. Are proud of the karma of this life, the force of our past actions has brought this situation to me. If I don't learn the lesson, it'll come back in some other form. I used to joke with people, I was married for 10 years, same relationship, just the names and faces changed. Why? Because I didn't change. I didn't change. Anybody else have that happen? Or same awful boss, no matter which job you get? So what we need to realize is right where I am is what I've drawn by my karma. Now, what am I going to do? What's the lesson? Let go and keep your heart open. It's always the same lesson. Detach, detach, detach. And don't shut down. Keep your heart open. Come to a place of equanimity. Then you'll find you'll have the freedom to move on. Very important point. We can't ever be free simply by running. Any of you know someone who may be in an abusive relationship and they leave and they keep coming back and they leave and they keep coming back? Anybody who's done that? Why? Oh, it's familiar. I'm attached. I keep coming back. So we've got to get neutral the situation so then we can walk away in peace. So we can walk away in peace. So what's wrong with my life is not where I live, the job I have, the partner I have or don't have. What's wrong with my life is my own attachments and aversions. Here's another slogan I like to give. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. That's the Sanskrit word. It means an affliction, the dosha, the defect. I'm the one with the problem. I'm attached. I have an expectation. I'm identified. Now, does that mean they're right and I'm wrong? No. The world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong. But if I'm reacting, I'm the one with the problem. And karmically, if I don't resolve it and I run, it will probably show up again. A different face and a different name. So in yoga, you can run, but you cannot hide. At some point, we have to stop it and face. Those are the deeper understandings. Everything I need is right where I am. And if I practice this kind of detachment that Krishna is suggesting to us, then you'll find the externals will begin to change by grace. You'll know what to do. All right, it's 8 o'clock. We need to stop. Before we do, the Thursday night next class is Atma Bodha, the 12-week course on the knowledge of the self. It's an intermediate text by Adi Shankara, and it will start on April 20th. And I have flyers out there on the table if you or a friend you think might be interested in. I will end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari